You know, I swear I thought it was a compliment. I try my best to be a nice guy. I try to just reach out and do the best that I can in the world around me. But apparently, referring to a group of girls at work as my little women is frowned upon in this establishment. I gotta say though, a tiny cabin at the edge of society with 4 women where Eliza Scanlon is the weird, shy, ugly sister? I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I think I am living in the wrong time. If you've made your way past this unbelievably chauvinist introduction, this week we are talking about Little Women on the Everyman Movie Review. You ever have one of those things that sounded really funny in your head, and then when it came out of your mouth, you were appalled at your own words, and then that happens, just so happened that you said it into a camera, and you could go back and re-record, but you're almost so ashamed of yourself that you want to be embarrassed by how dumb it was with the things that you said. Yep, it happens to everyone, just happened to me in the introduction to this episode. Apologies, don't know where that came from. I do try my best. I don't know what to say. It's really late and I'm very tired. That's not an excuse. Just, we're going to move on with a fantastic movie based on a fantastic book, which I think everybody enjoyed. So let's go ahead and get the pleasantries out of the way, shall we? Little Women was directed by Greta Gerwig. It was, of course, written as well by Greta Gerwig based on the Louisa May Alcott book. It is starring in no particular order Saoirse Ronan as Jo March, Emma Watson as Meg March, Florence Pugh as Amy March, Eliza Scanlon as Beth March, Laura Dern as Marmee March in the role that I thought she was nominated for an Academy Award in, but it turns out it was actually the role in Marriage Story, both roles completely deserving. Timothy Chalamet as Teddy Lawrence, Tracy Letts as Mr. Dashwood, Bob Odenkirk as the Father March, James Norton as John Brooke, and of course, if the cast couldn't get more star-studded, Chris Cooper as Mr. Lawrence, and Meryl Streep as Aunt March. Now this was an amazing cast in an amazingly written version of the Louisa May Alcott book, which I have to admit I probably have not read since high school when I was forced to read it in some English class. But I've never been a fan really of late 19th century American literature. I really, really, really want to like it. I do. I want to be the guy who reads Leaves of Grass just because. Anything Walter Whitman. I want to read Louisa May Alcott. I want to read all those great northeastern and far western roaming authors, poets, all of them. And I just can't. Maybe it's, the idea that I was born too late to explore the world and too early to explore the universe, that it just doesn't relate to me. And that as a cis white male, the idea of the struggles, I can understand, I can put myself in their position, but it's just not my story, so it's difficult for me to get into it. I do find, however, that I enjoy the film versions of these stories. I always find that it's just so much easier to get in and put myself in that position when I'm watching a film rather than reading a book. And the language is, although there is of course a language barrier, as long as it's a well done adaptation, then it doesn't form a barrier to keep you out of the story, which it can when you're reading. This adaptation of Little Women is no exception. I think Greta Gerwig did a fantastic adaptation of the Louisa May Alcott book. And she took her own spin on it, because obviously if you've read the book, you know that it's chronologically from the beginning to the end. And that story has been told before in film. There are some older versions of Little Women that have that entire chronology and the entire story, and it's very predictable. But if you haven't seen that story, if you haven't read the book, you could watch this version of Little Women and genuinely not know what's going to happen, even as they're jumping back and forth, and it seems so apparent. And that makes it so fantastic, because it's the same ideals of the literature without the kind of boringness that really gets me out of the story. Now, I don't know if everybody who's watching this knows, but I am an author myself. I have 5 published books, although some of them are not available, but we're working on getting those back into bookstores now. And of course, audiobooks. working on those as well. It's an audio medium I work on all the time, so why not have them in audiobooks? And maybe it's me going to the lowest common denominator, but I like to write very short chapters, and I try to have more than one storyline. I intertwine the storylines, and I try to leave every chapter or every other chapter of every storyline with a little bit of a cliffhanger, with a little bit of action that really makes you want to move forward with the story. In fact, I've been told by people who have read the book, even strangers who've kind of left messages on Amazon or sent me messages on my author's page on Facebook or on Amazon, that they just couldn't put the book down because they were like, I just want to get to the end of this A story. And then I had to read through B and I had to read through C, and then you left C hanging. And I got back to A and I finished where I wanted to be there, but now I had C back here in the back of my head eating at me and wondering what happened with that C story. And before I know it, it's 4 a.m. and I've read through 3/4 of the book and I gotta go to bed because I have work in the morning, but I really don't want to put it down. And maybe that's a cheap way to write. Maybe having it built that way and having that much excitement always happening and having the storylines that are not chronological and that are moving in and out of each other, just so that I can keep it exciting for the reader. Maybe that is not the way that classical writers did it. Maybe they expected a little more from their reader, or maybe they just thought they were a little more elitist. I do the Everyman Movie review. I try not to be pretentious. I try not to be above everyone. I am not a filmmaker, although I wish I was, of course. I'm not a film writer, although I wish I was, of course. But I do like movies, and I just want people to share that same love of movies that I have. So I just try to make it relatable as far as that's concerned, and I have the same policy with my writing. I want to write books that I would enjoy reading, and I think that I do. And maybe Walt Whitman and Louisa May Alcott wrote books that they would have enjoyed reading. I didn't necessarily enjoy reading them. It's just one of those things, I guess. But back to the point, I did enjoy watching Little Women on the big screen. And by mixing up the timeline, I think what Greta Gerwig did was make a little bit of a modern take and modern sophistication, in a way, to a story that had been told before. And I am of the full faith and belief this movie will be played in English classes in the future. I think it is such a good adaptation that after reading the book, my high school class watched a old black and white version of a movie of Little Women. And I think that this will replace that because it's so well done and because you can do so much analysis between the book and what comes up on film. I do want to get into just a few spoilers. If someone is still trying to see that, then obviously you don't want to check out the spoilers. So this would be the time to head down below to the time that's marked in the show notes so you can skip and not have it spoiled for you. Because the spoilers are coming at you right now. Beth. It's been a long time since I read the book, and I think I forgot about Beth. And it caught me by surprise. And I remember that she was sick. Here's the thing. Telling it out of order like that, I think it's easy to even catch people who knew the book relatively well, but haven't read it in a while, by surprise. And I think that was super hard, and yet Greta Gerwig found a way to do it. Like, just by mixing up the timelines, you can't remember where you are, bam, Beth, dead. Ugh, just heart-wrenching. And I remember the back and forth between Laurie and Joe and Amy. But, it's like, where did that end up? And I'm trying to remember from the book as I'm watching the movie. And it's like, you see Joe and Laurie getting close. And it's like, well, did he end up with Joe? I can't remember. Like, should he have ended up with Joe? But then he's with Amy and Amy rejects him. And I'm like, wait, is he going back with Amy? I can't. It catches you by surprise. And that is what she did. She mixed up something that would have been probably way more predictable otherwise. Joe sums it up so well. Like, women have dreams too. They have hopes. They have things that they're good at and things that they want to do. And I think that there's something that resonates so strongly even today about that. And maybe that's why it's popular, but I think you could actually turn that into a modern story. And of course, on the flip side of the coin is Amy, who says from the beginning, I know what I'm going to do. I have my plan already. Very much supported by Aunt March, of course, Meryl Streep. I think that there is a level there that is also to the modern age. But we're definitely getting out of spoilers at this point. In fact, I might edit this thing just to put things back so everyone can hear. But in any, let's go ahead and invite everyone back in because the spoilers are done and we're going to wrap up this review right now. And here's the funny thing about the book. I think it's in the public domain, so I think that anybody could do a movie about it. And I also think this is a story that could have a modern telling. And I was trying to explain what I meant to the folks that I went to the movies with about it, that I want to see it not like Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet, where they're doing the Shakespeare in the modern times. But how much of this story is super relatable to women today. I mean, here we are in 2020, and they're facing a lot of the same issues. Now, to be fair and to be honest, they are not facing the issue of not being able to own property, about not being able to have jobs, about them being frowned upon, about feeling like their only roles are in the home, being a homemaker and raising children, that they can't own anything because their husbands will actually own it. Their fathers pass them on to their husbands. But I think that there is something there about this idea that a woman who focuses on her career first and puts her family after that, if at all, is kind of shunned. And people always ask, like, well, when are you going to have a family? But I, as a 36-year-old guy, never get asked that, other than by my mother. My mother asks me all the time. Thank God to my sister for having a grandbaby for them, because it took the pressure off me a lot. My mom asked a lot. Nobody else asked. Yeah, why doesn't someone ask me, 36-year-old man, why I'm not focusing on finding a wife and having kids? But then I hear from my employees that that 22 or 23-year-old women are getting that question, not only from their families, which is a little understandable, but from people out in the public at large. Like, why would you want to focus on your job? Isn't it time to find yourself a husband? Didn't you come to California to find yourself a husband, get married, and have some kids? Like, no. People, they have dreams. And of course, on the flip side of the coin, I have a friend back in Maryland who has said from the beginning that, listen, I'm the kind of feminist that believes strongly in supporting women who want to be barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen. And that is a perspective too. And in a way, it's kind of frowned on as well. Because although we want women to drop their focus on the career and go have a family, we also don't want them to have no career ambitions. So there's really no win. And I think that is kind of what Jo is saying in this. She's saying, hey, if I focus totally on marriage, then people ask me, like, don't you have any dreams or aspirations? You're so smart. You can do so much. But if I focus just on the career, then people say, hey, what about the family? There's just no winning. And I think that is a story that resonates through time. And it's a little disappointing that this book was written 150 years ago. And the first kind of play adaptation was probably 20 years after that. And here we are, 4 versions of a movie in 150 years later. And it still resonates strongly because society is still treating women the same way. I think another thing telling it out of chronological order does is you get to see kind of things develop. Obviously, I knew that she wrote a book called Little Women. We were watching a movie of a book called Little Women. But it's like you get so lost in the story. It's like, when did that happen? When is that gonna happen? And, how does that work out with the school and the whole thing? And it just kind of comes up on you by surprise. So I think that it's a skill. It's a talent to take something that everyone may know and turn it into something new. And Greta Gerwig has completely done that. And I don't want to act like I am surprised about that. I mean, especially when you pair Greta Gerwig and Saoirse Ronan together. We had them together in Lady Bird. What an amazing story and how well that story was told. And now we have them taking a classic piece of literature and doing the same thing. And once again, this movie was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Picture. I don't know that it is Best Picture material. I think that there is a barrier just from people who don't enjoy classical anything, literature or movies based on the literature. And I think it was a tough year for any movie that didn't kind of break the mold a little bit. I mean, you're in a category with Quentin Tarantino and Bong Joon-ho, who was doing something completely new and different, and Joker, that was doing something completely new and different. And to take something that was kind of like classic Oscar fare and turn that into a Best Picture in a year where there was so much competition that wasn't, I think it's just, it's really difficult. So I think the only place to really go is to ask yourself the questions, right? Do you like, well, maybe not do you like, do you hate female-focused movies? This movie's probably not for you. Also, check yourself. Do you not like classical literature? Okay, maybe understandable, but I can tell you that this is not the these and thous of a Shakespeare play. It is in normal language. You'll be able to understand everything. So there's nothing really here that should scare you off. If you watched Parasite, because you were like me and you wanted to see all the Oscar winners, and you can read the subtitles while you're watching a movie, you can deal with Little Women speaking a little bit different version of English. Otherwise, I really don't see a downside to this movie. I mean, it's a little long, but all of the Oscar movies are longer. It's really hard to find a movie that's less than 2 hours at this point. So unless you want to go see Fast and the Furious 9, which will probably clock in at an hour 45, or a kids movie that'll be closer to 90 minutes, it's going to be 2 hours. And you just have to kind of push through and get the value for your dollar. But really, I think that this movie is kind of on the cutting edge, ironically, taking something classical and turning it into something new. But I mean, it's on the cutting edge because it is a book written by a woman about women, adapted by a woman, and then played out by a group of fantastic women. And men are almost an afterthought in this. Like, there are some really talented men. Bob Odenkirk, who I love, Better Call Saul being the least of my favorite things about him, but he is a fantastic actor, and both in comedy and in drama, and he makes an impact on every single scene that he shows up in. But he is far outshined by the other women in the scene around him. He is a side note to this story. He is the reason, the motivator at best for what the women do. And of course, we see Timothée Chalamet a lot more. I got a few thoughts about Timothée Chalamet. I think Timothée Chalamet is a very talented actor. I saw Call Me By Your Name, and I think that was a very impressive role, especially for him at such a young age. Corey, the other half of the podcast, was absolutely enraptured by him in Little Women. And for me, it just missed the mark a little bit. I felt like he was playing kind of himself. Now, maybe he's not that guy in real life. He just felt disconnected. And I don't know, I just got the impression of my memory of the book, and that could be completely wrong, that Laurie was such more of a warm character and a more well-rounded character. And I don't feel like we got that from Timothée Chalamet. I never felt the give and take. In the moments when he's with Joe, I didn't feel that like longing and the love that I thought I would. He has so much of a flat facade. Like, he's stone-faced the entire time. And then the switch over to Amy, I would be upset if I was Amy given the circumstances of how that happened. And I just feel like in the book it's so much more warm, and you almost feel bad, not for Amy, but for Laurie, because you feel like he really does love her, and it's not about her being second best to Joe. It's not about Joe not being available and her being there. But in the movie, you do get a little bit of that feeling. I just feel that there are other actors who could have played the part of Laurie, done an equal job to Timothée Chalamet in most respects, but added that little extra special something that just draw you in. So this is going to be a super weird comparison, and it's absolutely not fitting right now. But I don't know why it came to mind as I was recording this. Imagine a young, at the time, at the appropriate age, Jonathan Taylor Thomas as Laurie. He's probably a little short, because I don't think he's the same height as the girls. But Timothée Chalamet is a little short too for that role. Not for the role, but as in comparison to the girls. But just like every time I've seen Jonathan Taylor Thomas, JTT, what up? On any kind of movie or show, I just felt the warmth. I felt like he drew me in. Something about his personality and the smile and all of it. It just brings you into the character that he's embodying. He's got that something that I feel like Timothée Chalamet is missing. And it could just be a matter of experience. Don't know what experience Timothée Chalamet had before Call Me By Your Name. And of course, Jonathan Taylor Thomas was on stage, on film, a long time before he kind of grew into adulthood. And I'm not saying anything, I don't want to say anything negative about Timothée Chalamet. I think he gave a fantastic performance. But was it the best performance we could have had for Laurie? That I am not sure of. And I honestly, I don't think so. I honestly felt more from James Norton as the Mr. Brooks character than I did from Timothée Chalamet as Laurie. And it's not supposed to be that way. At least that's not how I feel about my memories from the book. You want to side with Laurie. You want everything to work out for him with the right girl, with the right sister. I didn't get that. Meg and John kind of become a side note and a side story in both the book and the movie. But I just was like, John, I feel so bad for him. And Laurie is kind of a prick. I don't remember feeling that way when I read the book. But again, maybe it's just been too long. Who knows? But we burned enough time. Let's go through the questions. Do you like classical literature movies? Do you like a little bit of a slow burn, but yet and exciting enough to kind of keep you on your toes about what's happening? You're going to like this movie. I mean, honestly, do you like Greta Gerwig? I just love everything that she's a part of. Saoirse Ronan, same deal. Emma Watson, same deal. I am learning to love Florence Pugh. I saw Midsummer. Now I'm seeing her in Little Women. Both were fantastic performances, so I'm learning to love her as well. I think that the cast was so good. Laura Dern, Eliza Scanlon, like, the cast is so good that it just draws you in. And even if this is not your thing, I think that if you watch it at home where you can maybe take a couple breaks if that's really what you need. You need a break from the literature styling, or you need a break from the language or the way that they're speaking, that you will love this movie as well. And I think I said earlier, but it might have been during the spoiler section, I do think that this movie is going to end up being shown in English classes across the country in the future, just because it is that good and it's that good of an adaptation. But it was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Picture, along with other things. It unfortunately did not win. It lost to Parasite, who had a fantastic night at the Oscars. However, because it was nominated, it's probably going to be available for an extended period in the movie theater. But even so, don't put it off, because you're not going to want to miss it. Run out and check out Little Women today. So there you have it, another episode of the Everyman Movie Review in the books. Right at the top here, I want to thank my patrons over at Patreon. I could not do this without you guys. Like I said at the top of the episode, and I keep saying, I'm having new equipment delivered, it seems like all the time. I just got a set of Samson CO2 pencil condenser microphones that are hopefully improving the audio quality immensely. Cameras are coming in, lights are coming in, new computers, new software, everything. I could not do that without you. And of course, the moral support. There's nothing better than getting a message that just says, hey, keep it up, or I'm listening, I'm subscribed, I'm loving the content. That kind of stuff just keeps me motivated and keeps me going. And my patrons are on the front line of the people doing that. So thank you to all of you guys. If you want to be one of the chosen few, it's so easy. Go on over to patreon.com, that's patreon.com/Robert N. Cheek, and for as little as $1 a month, you too can become a supporter of mine. You get shout outs in all the books and the videos like I'm doing right now. Basically in any of my projects, I mention and give thanks to the people who support me on the front line. And while you're cruising around the interwebs, don't forget that the Everyman Movie Review is available on social media now. You can check it out on Instagram, on Twitter, and on Facebook. All of those links are going to be found down below in the description. Make sure you check it out. Come and join the community. Say hello to everyone who follows along. Send me a message. Let me know what you think about this particular podcast or YouTube episode, whatever it is you're watching, however you're consuming it. And speaking of that, it's available in both. You can find the videos at youtube.com/Rob Cheek, and you can find the podcast episodes at anchor.fm/Everyman Movie Reviews. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure that you leave a comment below and let me know what you think there as well. And while you're here, hit the like button, let everybody know that you like the video, and maybe subscribe. It'll let you know when the next video is out. If you're listening on Anchor, go on over to anchor.fm/Everyman Movie Review/message. That'll let you send me a voicemail or a text, and if you want, I can actually play it right on the podcast version of the show to let everybody know what you think about my review of this movie. And of course, if you want to find me on social media, all of my accounts across all the social media are at Robert N. Cheek. That's going to be Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, Snapchat, everything at Robert N. Cheek. You can find me on YouTube at youtube.com/Rob Cheek. Working on changing that, hopefully soon. And of course, don't forget robertncheek.com, where you can find everything about me and all the stuff that I'm working on. And you can sign up for the mailing list to be the first to know about all the new projects before they come out. And if you can't get enough of me, why would you? You can join me every single Tuesday, where me and my buddy Corey do the the Anthem podcast. We talk about news, we talk about sports, we talk about events happening around the world, especially here in LA, where we currently live, and back in Baltimore, our home away from home. New episodes of that podcast are available every Tuesday. You can find the video version at youtube.com/the Anthem, and it's available in podcast form on all your podcatchers, but the easiest one, of course, anchor.fm/the Anthem. And finally, thank you as always for checking out this show. New episodes are available every single Thursday, as well as one day in between, Sunday or Monday usually, generally. You can find a new episode as well. I try to do a little bit mix of new movies and a little bit of old movies, stuff I find on streaming, either on Amazon or HBO or anywhere that I can find it, Netflix. But you also see a lot of new movie reviews from stuff that's still in the theaters, and maybe even second-run theaters, because I'm a huge proponent of the second-run theater. So make sure you join us next time for the next review. And of course, we got more projects coming all the time over on YouTube. A new episode of Rob Explains Everything is coming very soon. I'm getting ready to shoot that, in fact. So make sure you check out that as well. And until then, of course, have a great week, everybody.